Yesterday was August 27th, a day designated for Katiba Day. The celebration was at KICC, and from these images you can see how the event went down. My keynote speaker at the event was actually, MP Otiende Amolo. I just want you to listen to him, and then from there we can have a discussion.
I am the first to concede, and I've said this and I've conceded it in public, that I don't think we are doing well in Parliament, especially the 13th Parliament. I am not here to apologize. But just like all other branches, there are successes, but there's work to be done. At least in our favor, 15 years down the line, we still have a bicameral parliament. 15 years down the line, we've held elections regularly. We are still able to vet. We are even able to impeach, as we recently did. So at least it is there. But there are two problems that I see. One is historical, and one is institutional. The historical one, Chair, you will remember, is the problem between the National Assembly and the Senate. In the Committee of Experts, we had designated the Senate as the upper house. You who were in Parliament then decided that we did not need a Senate and removed it. When it came to us, given the historical experience that we had in this country, we decided we needed a Senate at least to protect devolution. So unfortunately, all the powers we had given to the Senate were removed, and we left the Senate with a threadbare role of protecting devolution and taking care of the interests of the devolved units. Very little. And ultimately, therefore, with the subsequent interpretations by the Supreme Court and all, there remains sibling rivalry between the Senate and the National Assembly, and sometimes it becomes a problem for Parliament as Parliament. That is historical. The institutional one is one of our creation, and it was created before I joined Parliament. We changed, the Committee of Experts had proposed a parliamentary system. Members of Parliament, in their wisdom, in Naivasha, changed it to a presidential system. And so we had to make things to adopt to that presidential system. Whatever we made to adopt to the presidential system does not seem to have been reflected in the structure of politics. So that what we have now is you have members of Parliament from the party that is in the executive, and because they are the majority in Parliament, they call themselves government. You have members of Parliament from the minority who call themselves opposition. Members of Parliament are yet to learn that there is no government or opposition inside of Parliament. There is only the majority and the minority, and collectively we are supposed to oversight the executive. That we have not learned, and it's something we struggle with, and that's part of the problem. I think moving forward, there are things to be done. One, is Parliament must seriously work on the trust deficit that we currently have. But secondly, and Njoki talked about judicial overreach. We had a colloquium with the judiciary recently, and I made the proposition that while the judiciary is free to handle Parliament in any way, especially when it's doing a quasi-judicial duty, please let Parliament handle legislation, because there are inbuilt mechanisms. You can find us wrong later. But lastly, from the executive perspective, it must also reduce its chokehold on Parliament. Kidogo too, then we'll be able to move forward. Thank you very much.
Let's dissect this. There are 3 points I was able to abstract from his presentation. First, executive overreach. We've been talking about this for long. Even during President Uhuru, we still had this discussion. Parliament hasn't been independent for one major reason, which definitely is corruption. Okay, a majority of these MPs are in Nairobi for business, actually business deals. So they get into deals here and there to a scary level. That puts their reputation in bad light. And given that the president is a consumer of raw intelligence, it becomes difficult for them to exercise their independence. So moving forward, we need a parliament that is independent, and this can only be achieved when we elect selfless MPs, not greedy ones, because once we elect these greedy ones, they go to Nairobi, to get into deals. They get into deals Or in other words, they make money from you through corruption, and that puts them in a situation where they need protection. So what do? You stop providing oversight on the executive and allow him to control you, so that in return you get what? Protection. That's a fact. Second, we have a speaker in the National Assembly that is more focused on politics than his role. The speaker plays partisan politics and feels he's holding his position to serve the executive, which is so unfortunate. Even if he holds the position courtesy of President Ruto, he should at least, play by partisan politics and protect the independence of parliament, particularly the National Assembly. If he protected the independence of parliament, perhaps it would have done a better job. And Otiende wouldn't have, felt the 13th parliament is weak or underperforming. And at the same time, nobody would have even gone to the streets to protest Finance Bill 2024, because parliament would have done a better job, and that would have prevented, the protests we had last year and also this year. Third, which is my last point, what system works best for Kenya? Is it parliamentary or presidential? Right now, we have a presidential system, and let me ask, do you feel it is a good one? Let me say this. As it is right now, I would say the current presidential system is still fine. But the problem isn't necessarily, the system. The problem is the people you elect. When you elect people who lack goodwill, integrity, and those are the virtues, believe you me, there shall be no transformation. Essentially, I feel we should do introspection and put future political candidates under the microscope before electing them. This then returns me to a basic concern. Are Kenyans ready for change? If so, what are they doing to make that change happen? Okay, guys, this is just my analysis. What do you think? And what should happen? Let's share ideas here. This is just another day with Owen Analysis.